So, you guys wanted to deep dive into ritual.
Let's do it.
Get ready to have your mind blown because this lecture we're diving into, it's not just about like lighting candles and chanting mantras. It's about unlocking a new level of wisdom and well-being.
It challenges our preconceptions about ritual, doesn't it?
Yes.
We often think of it as outdated or irrelevant.
Right.
This deep dive reveals how deeply it's woven into the fabric of our lives, even in the modern world.
It totally blew me away. It's like this lecture is saying that feeling of being in the zone, absorbed in what you're doing, that's not an accident. That's ritual in action.
It's about harnessing that power, that flow state.
Yes.
And using it to become the best versions of ourselves.
Exactly. Imagine someone who dives headfirst into every desire, no hesitation. Basically, a toddler let loose in a candy store.
Yeah.
That's wanton.
But just impulsive, driven by desire. No real thought or reflection.
Yeah. While that might sound freeing at first, the lecture, drawing on the philosopher J. David Velleman, suggests it leads to internal chaos.
Makes sense.
Constantly battling conflicting impulses, never in control.
It's like you're always chasing the next shiny object, never finding satisfaction. Because you're so caught up in immediate gratification.
Right?
You never stop to consider what will truly bring you lasting fulfillment.
Yes, and the lecture throws us another curveball. Overthinking everything isn't the answer either.
It's like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, we have this unbridled impulsivity, and on the other, we have this tendency to overthink and overanalyze.
Yes.
Can lead to paralysis.
It uses Hamlet as an example. He's paralyzed by analysis, trapped in this loop of endless deliberation.
Oh yeah, Hamlet. Always overthinking, never acting.
If being a wanton leads to chaos and overthinking leads to paralysis, where's the sweet spot?
That's the million-dollar question. And that's what this lecture is about, finding that balance.
Yes, this is where it gets interesting. The lecture points to the flow state as that sweet spot.
Flow state, I like that.
Yeah, that feeling when you're so engrossed in an activity that everything else melts away.
You're in the zone.
Yes.
Time seems to disappear. You're completely in sync with what you're doing.
Yes.
It's almost like a mystical experience.
It's almost like you're not even thinking, you're just doing.
And yet you're performing at your peak.
Yes.
Athletes experience it, musicians, artists, even people solving complex problems. According to the lecture, it's in this flow state we achieve that optimal balance between instinct and reflection.
Yes, you're not overthinking it, but you're also not blindly barreling through.
Our brains are firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
But it feels effortless, instinctual.
It feels natural. In deep engagement, we learn implicitly, almost without realizing it.
Practice makes perfect.
Exactly.
It's not just about repetition. It's about being present and engaged.
Think about learning to ride a bike.
Right.
You're not processing every movement. You just do it.
Eventually, it becomes second nature.
Yes.
You don't even have to think about it anymore.
We know more than we think.
Exactly.
The lecture argues that this implicit learning can cut both ways.
In what sense?
It's incredibly powerful. We can learn complex skills, develop intuitions.
Right.
But it makes us susceptible to biases.
We're absorbing information from our environment all the time. If we're not careful, we can internalize patterns and beliefs that might not be true or helpful.
So if we're constantly exposed to certain patterns, even negative ones, our brains start to internalize them.
It's like if you grow up surrounded by people who are always negative and pessimistic, you're more likely to develop a negative outlook.
Negativity bias. Right. Our brains are naturally drawn to the negative.
And that can be difficult to overcome. It's operating on this implicit level. We're not aware of it most of the time.
That gut feeling, intuition, can sometimes lead us astray if we're not careful.
That's why it's important to be aware of the potential biases we're carrying and to actively challenge them whenever we can.
We're training our brains to see the world more clearly, to pick up on patterns that matter.
It's about cultivating a more discerning mind.
But it's not just about how we think.
Right.
It's also about how we approach life.
Okay.
And the lecture dives into this distinction between having and being.
Interesting.
Drawing on the work of psychoanalyst Erich Fromm.
Having versus being. That's a big one.
It is a big one.
So often we get those two things confused.
You think if we just accumulate enough stuff, achieve enough, then we'll be happy.
Yes.
That's the having mode.
Having is about what we acquire being, is about who we are.
Exactly.
I'm sensing the danger in mixing these up.
The lecture calls it modal confusion, trying to fill the void of being with pursuits of having.
We think that new car, promotion, bigger house will make us feel complete, but it never does.
Because those are external. They can't address the deeper longing for meaning and connection.
We're constantly chasing something, but never quite sure what
We're looking in the wrong place.
And this is where the concept of play comes in. It's not what you might expect.
It's not about goofing off.
Right. It's not just about frivolous entertainment.
The lecture highlights the importance of serious play.
Serious play. I like...
What makes play serious?
I think it's about that total immersion, being completely absorbed in an activity for its own sake.
Okay.
Not for external reward or validation.
It's got to be something you're doing for the joy of it, not because you're trying to impress someone.
It's not about the outcome, it's about the process.
Think of a child building a Lego masterpiece, or an artist losing themselves in the creative process.
A musician jamming with their band, lost in the music.
It's that pure joy, being fully present and engaged.
What's amazing is that in those moments of serious play, we tap into our deepest creativity,
yes,
our most authentic selves.
And the lecture is saying that this kind of play is actually crucial for development.
It's how we learn, grow, tap into our full potential.
I love how the lecture ties this back to ritual.
Yeah.
It argues that ritual, done right, can be a powerful form of serious play.
It's not just going through the motions. It's about bringing intentionality, playfulness, seeing them as opportunities for growth and transformation.
And that's what's so fascinating about ritual, right? It's not about blindly adhering to tradition.
Right.
It's about shaping our minds and behaviors.
Yeah.
For a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
That's what we're going to explore in this deep dive.
I'm excited. It's about creating a space where we can step outside the everyday and connect with something deeper, something that allows us to practice being the people we want to become.
And that brings us to this fascinating idea from the lecture, ritual knowing.
Ritual knowing. I'm intrigued. Sounds like a different kind of intelligence.
Not just about accumulating facts and figures.
Right.
It's not just about book smarts. It's about developing a deep, embodied understanding of the world.
More than just head knowledge.
Exactly. It's about integrating knowledge into your actions, your way of being in the world.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
The lecture uses the example of a master craftsperson.
Okay.
They don't just follow instructions, develop a feel for the materials. Intuition for the process goes beyond words.
Like a wood carver who can sense the grain, or a potter who knows how the clay will respond.
Exactly. That's ritual knowing. A wisdom from repeated practice, from embodying principles until they become second nature.
It's like this deep, intuitive understanding that develops over time through practice.
The lecture suggests this kind of knowing can be transformative.
In what way?
It allows us to move through the world with greater ease and skill.
Okay.
We're no longer stumbling in the dark.
We develop this inner compass.
Exactly.
Rituals mark important life transitions.
Yes.
Like coming-of-age ceremonies or funerals. They provide a framework for processing complex emotions.
Life is full of transitions, moments of change and uncertainty. Rituals give us a way to navigate those transitions with a sense of meaning and purpose.
They give us a roadmap.
Exactly. They provide a structure, a container for those experiences.
They connect us to something bigger than ourselves, right?
Absolutely. The lecture talks about this in the context of religious rituals.
Okay.
How reciting sacred texts or engaging in specific practices can have a decentering effect.
Decentering, like shifting our perspective beyond our own limited viewpoint.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond the ego and connecting with something larger.
It's like hitting the reset button on our thinking, allowing us to see things from a fresh perspective.
It draws on the research of Patrick McNamara, a neuroscientist who studies the cognitive effects of religious experience.
Okay.
And he suggests that these rituals, regardless of beliefs, can actually help us escape the echo chamber of our own minds.
It's not about the specific beliefs themselves, but about the act of engaging in these rituals.
Exactly. It's about the practice, the experience.
That's fascinating. We can get so caught up in our head that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
Rituals can help us break free from that.
They help us detach from our narrow perspective and tap into something more expansive.
Exactly. It's similar to what researchers observe with the Solomon effect. Heard of that?
Tell me more.
They found that people who describe a personal problem from a third-person perspective, like advising a friend, come up with more insightful and helpful solutions.
Wow. Just shifting our perspective, getting out of our own heads, can help tap into a different kind of wisdom.
We're able to access a wider range of perspectives, and that can lead to more creative and effective problem solving.
Rituals, with their structure and symbolism, can be a powerful tool for cultivating wisdom.
Absolutely. It's not just about solving problems in the traditional sense. Navigating life's challenges with grace and skill. With a deeper understanding and compassion.
What I love about this lecture is that it doesn't present rituals as static, unchanging things. It emphasizes the need for repetition and variation.
Because it's not about following tradition. It's about finding that balance between honoring the wisdom of the past and adapting those traditions to meet the needs of the present moment.
A balancing act between honoring tradition and allowing for evolution.
Like a dance. You have the steps, the structure, but you also have the freedom to improvise, to make it your own.
And that's where creativity comes in, right? It's not about mindlessly going through the motions.
Exactly. It's about bringing your full presence to the practice, allowing yourself to be transformed by the experience.
This is where the lecture introduces a concept you'll find interesting: ritual metaphysics.
I love that term. Ritual metaphysics sounds profound.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Ritual metaphysics. Tell me more.
Well-crafted rituals don't just reflect the world. They reveal something deeper about its underlying structure and meaning.
They're not just arbitrary actions or beliefs. They're pointing to something real, true about the nature of reality.
It's like they're providing a glimpse into the hidden order of the cosmos.
It reminds me of those moments when you experience something truly awe-inspiring. Like standing under a star-filled sky or listening to music that moves you to your core. You just feel this sense of connection to something much greater than yourself, something beyond words.
The lecture argues that these experiences, glimpses of ritual metaphysics, aren't irrational or mystical. Represent a different kind of understanding. It's essential for meaningful life.
Recognizing different ways of knowing the world, different paths to truth and understanding.
This expanded rationality is intimately connected to the pursuit of wisdom and well-being.
It's about recognizing our well-being is bound up with the well-being of others.
Exactly. That sense of interconnectedness again. We're all part of something larger than ourselves.
That brings us to another fascinating aspect of this lecture: the connection between ritual, wisdom, and well-being.
Yeah, because it's not just about feeling good, right? Cultivating a deep, enduring sense of well-being that permeates our lives.
The lecture draws on fascinating research, particularly the work of the Science of Wisdom Project.
Tell me more about that.
What does science say about wisdom?
Right, because it seems hard to define. Like, what does it actually mean to be wise?
Exactly.
Is it about having a lot of knowledge or something more?
One key aspect they highlight is perspectival metacognition.
Perspectival metacognition. Break that down for me.
Imagine you're having a disagreement with a close friend. Perspectival metacognition is the ability to step back from that moment and see the situation not just from your own frustrated viewpoint, but also from their perspective.
So it's like being able to hold multiple perspectives simultaneously?
Yes.
Understand where the other person is coming from, even if you don't agree?
Precisely.
That's fascinating. So it's like having this mental flexibility, this ability to see beyond your own perspective.
The lecture connects this to ritual, arguing that engaging in rituals, particularly those that involve a sense of humility or surrender, can actually help us develop this capacity for perspective taking.
Rituals provide a training ground for cultivating wisdom. They help it develop that broader, more compassionate perspective that's essential for navigating the complexities of life.
That expanded perspective, as the lecture argues, has a ripple effect on our well-being.
It allows us to approach challenges with more grace and resilience.
Yes.
To find meaning and purpose in difficult experiences.
It's not about avoiding the hard stuff. It's about having the wisdom to navigate it, to grow and learn.
The lecture points to philosopher Michael Bishop, who argues that well-being isn't just this one thing, but rather a complex system of interconnected elements.
So it's not just about being happy, but having a sense of purpose, strong relationships, meaningful work, a connection to something larger than ourselves.
Bishop calls this a positive causal network, where each of these elements reinforces and supports the others, creating this virtuous cycle of well-being.
Each positive element strengthens the entire system, making us more resilient in the face of challenges.
Exactly. The lecture suggests wisdom, cultivated through practices like ritual, is essential for establishing and maintaining this positive causal network.
Wisdom is the glue that holds it all together.
This brings us to the most profound insight of this entire lecture. The idea that true well-being, true wisdom, is intimately connected to falling in love with reality.
Falling in love with reality, that's a concept I can get behind. Tell me more.
It's about cultivating this deep appreciation for the world as it is.
Okay.
With all its beauty, complexity, joys, and sorrows.
Accepting it all.
Exactly.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
It's about finding wonder in every day, gratitude for simple things.
A deep sense of connection to the web of life.
Ultimately, we're all part of this incredible interconnected web.
It reminds me of that feeling you get when you witness a breathtaking sunset.
Yes.
See a random act of kindness, or you have this deep conversation with someone you love.
These moments where you feel awe and wonder.
Yes, in those moments we can glimpse the inherent goodness and beauty of existence.
The lecture suggests that these moments aren't just fleeting experiences, they're glimpses into a deeper reality.
Okay.
A reality that we can access more fully through practices like ritual.
So it's not about escaping from the world,
Right.
About finding ways to connect with it more deeply, to experience its richness and fullness.
It's about approaching life with curiosity, awe, and reverence.
Recognizing the interconnectedness of all things.
Yes.
And finding joy in the simple act of being alive.
This has been an amazing deep dive.
This lecture changed how I think about ritual.
Me too.
It's not about blind adherence to tradition.
Right.
Actively shaping our minds and behaviors for a meaningful and fulfilling life.
It's about unlocking potential for wisdom, well-being, and a deep connection to ourselves, each other, and the world.
It's about finding practices, rituals that help us fall in love with reality.
Beautifully said.
We'll leave our listeners with something to ponder. Where might you find opportunities for that transformative experience? What rituals can you incorporate into your life to cultivate more wisdom, well-being, and connection?